Okay, guys. Hey, hi, and how are you doing out there? I did say I was going to be coming on a little bit like a random fixed Scorpio, and I know in my life sometimes they just turn up unannounced, and so I actually wanted to because as I was, looking back on my other video, I noticed right sort of at the beginning, you can see my eyes look super, super glassy, right? And I forgot to mention on that video that I had just done the Brown's gas, okay? And so I wanted to just catch you up on this video on me and my little baby Mimi, okay? So let me just get my little baby Mimi. He's here, so that's why I came down to. Hello, baby. Hello, my darling. Still so beautiful and so gorgeous. Okay. So, so I just thought I'd just very briefly kind of catch you up on kind of what's been going on for me and my little baby Memes. Okay. And so, so I had the Brown's gas, right? And that was great because it really let me realize that I needed to detox that stuff out of my system, okay? And I left there. I did a little bit. Well, no, I did 10 minutes breathing, and then I did 5 minutes on the goggles on the eyes, okay? And when I left there, I had a little bit of a headache kind of coming on, and then that kind of then turned into nausea. I mean, this is really what I'm trying to impress upon you guys. And I said, actually, if you are using products that cost pennies and cents, then you've got no sense. But actually, that product is not a cheap product. It costs $150, okay? It's not a cheap product. And I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that it's just cheap products that are full of shizzle. No, you may be paying big bucks for your shizzle, okay? But have a look at the ingredients, and if it's an ingredients list this long on a bottle this big, then let me just tell you guys, I don't even care if they are telling you it's natural. There are so many products out there these days. They're called organics or au naturel or, whatever, but they just aren't. They aren't anywhere close. The only products that are close to being natural are products that have about 5 ingredients, okay? And they will be very basic ingredients, and they will generally be oils, okay? And you've even seen me having used an oil, okay? I forgot about that this year, thank God. Anyway, and so then I had nausea all day. But let me just tell you guys, anything that comes from oil is guess what? Is heavy metals. Okay, that's what oil is, essentially. Essentially, oil, parabens, plastics, they're all the same. They all come from the same, they all stem from the same product, which is oil, and it's full of heavy metals, okay? So, yet again, they get embedded in your brain, your stomach, and your kidneys, okay? They're the main places. And so then I had just had low-grade nausea all evening, and even into the next day, actually. And then today, so, here we are kind of in Scorpio season after Libra season, and still I am feeling that I'm feeding a little bit my, we're in the middle of eclipse season, and it's always been, whenever there was a full moon or a new moon or an astrological, auspicious time, we would always be feasting. And so, that very much usually kind of includes allowing yourself a few addictions, okay? My other addiction, okay, apart from just to eating generally, which, I'm not that addicted to, and I am coming off it, I tend to just have 3 very small pieces of food a day. Dr. Berg, I'm not trying to intermittent fast, okay? I don't want to, I don't need to anymore, okay? I need to actually hold on to the fat that I've got now, okay? I'm not trying to burn fat anymore. I want to hold on to it, okay? So I do have some carbs, and they are mainly in the form of things like cacao, raw cacao, so raw chocolate, then I'm starting to sort of get into a little bit of an addictive ritual of having a decaf coffee every now and then. And I did that this morning, and I just wished I hadn't really. I've just got a headache now, and then I just tried to, and then I just went really sleepy. Just crashes me out, guys. I can handle as well. I've had quite a lot of chocolate cacao this morning, and I just thought, yeah, I'm just gonna like blast myself with a little bit of caffeine, and then come on here and the dirt, and then it just went, ugh, and I just instantly crashed after having that, even the decaf. Okay, so that didn't work. So then I did a hypnosis. And, I wanted to, kind of tell you guys, and I know I was saying on the last video, hypnosis it's just the first step, okay? And it is the most important step. And if you are avoiding it, then, it's unfortunate, honestly, because you're just never going to find your fullest potential. And you're never going to know how good your life can actually get, and how relaxed you can actually be, okay? And when I say relaxed, I mean without blocks. I regularly, almost every 3 weeks, guys, my program's a 3-week program, and almost every 3 weeks, I go back to my relaxation phase, okay? Sometimes it's a little bit longer. Sometimes I might stay in the strengthening phase for a little bit longer, okay, and that may go on for 3 weeks or a month or something like that. But then inevitably, because life is not easy, okay, and we are not living in paradise yet, it gets intense, and so every now and then I just think, oh, I just have to chill, I just have to relax, and then I'll just have a week where I'm not really doing a lot of movement, but I am still doing some, because I do find it difficult to not do any movement at all. But I'm focusing really on the relaxation, okay? And so I'm kind of going into another one of those this week, because I felt it yesterday, and I did a hypnosis yesterday, and I've done hypnosis already this morning. Okay, and so that's me. Okay, so that's me. So that's where I'm at, and I'm still needing to purge this shizzle. I'm going to need at least one more session on the Brown's Gas. I might just go for 2, okay, because now I've got a headache. Not today, but, now I've got a headache, and, I'm going to just cut out. I like the idea that I can have a decaf or even a caffeinated coffee every now and then, but I cannot do it, even decaf, every week, guys, so let alone every day. So I'm just going to not have it again until Christmas. And then I'm just going to enjoy with my son, probably for a couple of days around Christmas, we'll enjoy the ritual of coffee kind of thing. And so one of the things that I tried this morning, but it didn't actually work, was something that I realized on Meme's healing journey here. Okay, so I was wrong when I said, oh, well, this is going to be a really short healing journey then, because it only took 4 days to get him on his feet the first time. Well, every time it only really takes 4 days, but it's just that I wasn't thinking, as I told you, and I didn't really think about the fact that he needed to detox, did we, Meme? And even, actually, guys, I'm starting to get slightly paranoid, because even though we're doing what we can, and, I am starting to detox him now, I was actually around somehow, some way, and I don't even know how this time, I was actually around the shot recently, okay, and I had another cramp in the middle of the night. It has ended up being a journey, and I've got to detox him now, and that really is one of the most difficult things. And so one of the things I wanted to, I'll tell you the process that we're going along, but one of the things I actually did want to say was, along on your own healing journey, is that it actually isn't enough. Like, people think, oh, I'm just not going to eat, I'm just going to fast, I'm just going to have juices, I'm just going to have even broths or whatever. And having, guys, having chicken broth is a really incredible detox. It's a really great way to detox, and it's super easy because the fat is so filling. So I absolutely recommend that. And it is actually, in some ways, a better way to detox, because then the toxins, to a certain extent, will actually attach to the fat, and then they have an area transportation to actually be eliminated. But even then, it isn't quite enough. If you are detoxing, guys, you have got to be using some form of clay, okay? Whether that's diatomaceous earth, which also helps to cut up and eliminate, sort of free radical parasites, okay, that are just they overburden the system. And you'll know that because you will be completely addicted to carbs and sugars, okay? And so, then, and also bad behaviors and bad negative thoughts. One thing that we're really coming to realize is that parasites often drive our behaviors, okay? They very much drive the stress response, feed, and and fornicate, honestly, probably. Anyway, so on our little journey with memes, a friend of mine sent me a picture of a cat. As we know, they go paralyzed in their legs, and this can be, why don't you sit up here so everybody can see how pretty you are, my lovely. He's not in the mood, he's a bit tired, I'm afraid. I just woke him up. Actually, what's interesting about the CBD is that it seems to have kind of reset him. What I've noticed about cats is that they've got, they are nocturnal, okay? So once you sort of get a kitten, they are nocturnal, and they will be racing around at night kind of thing quite often, until, and it only takes a couple of weeks, they, very quickly kind of fall into your pattern of sleeping and waking, because you play with them in the day when you're awake, and then you go to bed, and then they sort of very quickly realize they're the only person racing around, until such time as they become an adult cat, and then they just want to go out at night, which Mooks is very much into. She's out all night, and then now she kind of sleeps all day, but she will then go out often in the afternoon as well. And but so the CBD, so Memes wasn't really in that process, and though he sleeps a lot and has been since he hasn't been well, with his toxicity, he was more playful in the day and sort of sleeping at night kind of thing. But but the CBD seems to have reset him back to his natural circadian rhythms, okay? And last night, guys, I actually couldn't believe it. For the first time ever, and I mean, I have never seen this kitten ever. So it does make me think he was always a strange kitten. He was always the odd one out. He was always different, and that's why we kept him. Okay, and he was very attached to Mum, and he was very attached to Bear, and he was always very much in his smells, and he loves and always loved the smell of Bear. He absolutely was just addicted to the smell of Bear, and he would just gets all sort of, wanting to snuggle up to his smells of, on his bed. They all like to sleep on Bear's bed, and his lead and things like that, because he gets the most pheromones kind of thing around where his leads goes, and so they love it. They absolutely love it. And we've been on a journey, okay, with this, and I just want to talk you through it, because this is my eclipse kind of drama, really. And it isn't getting necessarily any easier. I have to make sure now he doesn't have another seizure. I absolutely have to make sure, because and so I was, when I had that cramp the other night, suddenly I was really scared to touch him. I didn't want to touch him. I didn't want to kind of go up into his face kind of thing and give him kisses and things like that, because I don't want to poison my poor boy again, and even just, and then I worry about my clothes, even my hands, him coming up into my room, which I have had him a few times, since he's not that well kind of thing still. But anyway, let me do it in kind of a chronological order, right? It was interesting. My friend sent me this picture of a cat who was clearly needed some work done on its back legs, and it had these infrared packs, kind of like a belt, an infrared light belt around his hind legs. And in this last fall, so he's had 3 seizures, 3 main seizures, but then I kind of did realize with this last one, I think he has been having petit mals. Those were grand mals, okay, but he's been having petit mals as well. I just didn't realize it really, but I think he's had continuous kind of petit mals as well, where he just sort of, you know, kind of goes, it's a little bit like detach, okay, and gets very shaky. But he does a lot of shaking anyway, and I might go into that as well because, you know, I'm doing a lot of cranial with him. But with the last fall and with the last 2 falls, because he's just fallen bang onto his side, he has ended up with extreme kind of compression in his lower back, lower part of his spine, and his hips and everything. And so particularly with the last fall, even though it was the least height that he fell from, because it was just like the final straw really, he was kind of in the most pain. And whenever I would pick him up, he'd be like, you know, and he was never really like that with the first 2 falls. I then remembered that I actually have a couple of far infrared products, but one in particular, which is a face mask. Okay, and I got interested in buying these far infrared, you know, okay, yes, I'm aging, and, you know, it was a great byproduct that they actually do also help with fine lines and wrinkles. But the reason that I, you know, spent money on buying these products is not really for that, because, you know, I don't really have a problem with that because of the way that I choose to just detox all the time. But it was for my rosacea, okay? And far infrared is meant to be good for rosacea. And a client of mine who used to come on retreat, we had just worked with a wand. I used to have like a wand that I used. And she then found you could get a full mask. And so she told me about, she had this mask kind of thing, and she struggled with kind of acne and things like that. And she said, it's great. So I got one. But what I found was, and mine does about 5 different colors, but what I found was the far infrared just didn't really work. It actually made it was like too strong. It actually made it worse. I then found that I could use so I stopped using it for several years. And then I tried it again, and I found actually I could really read what the colours do. And I found that actually if I used, I can't remember which order I did it in, but I think it was purple, red, and then green. Okay, the green light is kind of the, you know, the opposite of the red light. And so it would just kind of take the heat out. But I'd still be getting the penetration of the far infrared. And so that did work for a bit. But anyway, then I got the Healy, and then it was fine, and I didn't even have to think about it. So I just haven't used that. I couldn't even remember where I'd put it. And but I suddenly remember I'd had it, and I thought, actually, you know what, I'm going to try that on his back legs. And so, you know, because it's like sort of like that, it has this kind of bowed shape to it. So it was perfect, sort of fitting on his hind legs. But he didn't particularly like it. He didn't particularly enjoy it. But one thing I did notice was then when I went to pick him up, guys, and I never knew this about far infrared, he didn't complain. It had actually helped with the pain. And I never knew this with far infrared. So I just had it on me now just to see if it would help my headache, but it actually didn't. So anyway, so what we've done with the healing, and last night then, guys, this is why I wanted to come on today, was because last night was the first time, I hadn't finished that conversation, that I have ever seen him ever, even as a small kitten, when his brother and sister were racing round the house when I had them for an extra week than the other cats. They'd gotten into that place, and they would be racing round the house through the night, and he wouldn't. He just wasn't interested. And then everybody left, and, you know, he just kind of fell into my sort of rhythm. So he's never really been an active nighttime cat kind of thing. But last night, guys, he was fully running around the house, okay? And it was just so great to see. I mean, he can't do it like a normal cat. He's never going to be a normal cat. And there's part of me that thinks maybe I should somehow try to genetically modify him, or genetically modify other cats to be like him. Because he's just, aren't you, my darling? He is just the most adorable cat. He's just a house cat. He's just a lap cat. He's just a gorgeous, lovely, pliable cat who, you know, I need to actually do a bit of work on his will, because he's very easily overpowered, and you know, he will kind of, I like it when he just does go, you know, get off me sort of thing if I'm combing him for too long, or something like that. And I like to give him that to have that power. It's like, yes, okay, you've said that, I'm going to stop. Okay, you're in your power and I'm going to listen to you. Okay. And so that's been really great. But the one thing, so then when I was looking into, so the thing that I've done different, you know, since we've had the calcium to build up his bones, okay, I then noticed that the CBD was great. I haven't given him some today, but I'm giving him a drop every day, and that seems to be resetting him back into his circadian rhythm. I then looked into detoxing cats, and I was thinking, how can I get milk thistle into him? Because I know that that's a really, really powerful, and I've seen the power of that work on alcoholics. It's a super, so if you're needing to get rid of alcohol in your life, get yourself a milk thistle tincture, because it's in alcohol anyway, okay? So you're still going to be getting a little bit of alcohol, and that's going to sort of satiate that alcohol craving. But at the same time, it's softening the liver. It's softening a fatty liver and starting to detox it. And so then you're going to stop having the cravings eventually for the alcohol. And you need to go through 3 weeks, okay, 3 weeks of letting it go, so that you can get over the actual addiction, the actual physiological addiction. You're still going to be addicted to the rituals for yourself. But that's where, you know, that's the beauty of the medicine, guys, is that you can actually have, because you're also going to be addicted to, you know, what everyone's addicted to, what kids become addicted to. And this is why we need to be careful with them. I was saying it to a friend the other day, they become addicted to, I can't remember what it's called, having different sort of psychological experience, basically. I can't remember what to call it. You know, a consciousness, a difference of consciousness. You know, that's why we seek out drugs and alcohol, okay? And even, you know, even coffee, which is the number one psychoactive drug that people are on, okay? It does completely change up your brain waves, okay? And your brain patterns, and it does cause much more, and I can see it in myself on this video, a much more chaotic sort of brain patterns. And I think in my last channel I talked about the spider experiment. I'm not going to go into it now because I haven't got much time and I want to talk about memes, but if you are interested in that, from the 1990s, I think there was a spider experiment giving them different drugs, okay, and you can see what coffee does to you, okay, does to them. And so it does, it scatters, we think it focuses us, but no, it doesn't. It scatters your brain, it scatters your brain waves. But it can be a little bit of fun. And but anyway, and so I then started looking into how do we detox cats, because, you know I suddenly realized I have to detox them. And then I found out that cats don't actually have a natural detox system. They don't have a lymphatic system. So they don't, and this is what I mean. Then when they get vaccinated or they're in a heavily toxic environment, they can come down with epilepsy because they don't have a way of detoxing it out of their system. So they have then created some products. It's a company called Blooming Pets, okay? I'm not, you know, they're not affiliated to me at all, and they have created a couple of detox products based on milk thistle. And I think they're both just milk thistle, but I ended up buying the one that said it was not just for liver support. It was liver support, kidney support, and it helps to release heavy metals, okay? And I had noticed that there is also a homeopathic remedy that can help to detox certain vaccines and stuff as well, okay? And I'm still going to go see my homeopathic vet next week, tell her our journey, and also see what she recommends, okay, what she can come up with. So I put a quarter of a teaspoon, and I'm putting a quarter of a teaspoon in his water every day, giving him fresh water, and he only takes a couple of sips from it, really. But yesterday was the first day, because it only just arrived. I was a little bit annoyed because I'd ordered it on Sunday, and they didn't even post it until Wednesday. So I didn't receive it until Thursday, and then I didn't actually use it until Friday. So anyway, we're on the case now. But I put it in his water. He drank it, and then not all the water, he only had a few sips really, and then he had some later in the day. But then about half an hour later, I noticed that he had gone into the shakes, okay? And that is a big part of the detox process, guys. If you are really, really working through and working out your stuff, okay, particularly if you're not eating. I mean, he is eating, but particularly if you are actually fasting and you're releasing heavy metals, and particularly if you're really toxic. There was an autistic young boy who came to our retreat one time. He wasn't coming for the retreat, but he was there as helping out, doing some electrics or something like that with his dad. And he said, "Oh, what are you doing here on the retreat?" And I said, "We're detoxing." "Oh, I've done detox before. It can really get you shaking, can't it?" And that's because people who have autism have heavy metal poisoning, okay, from vaccines, right? People don't like to admit that. They want autism to be something that's natural, but unfortunately it isn't. But the beauty of that is that we can actually make huge amounts of inroads in autism, okay, by detoxing our kids, detoxing these people, even when they're adults. And he had done several detoxes. And because it was heavy metals, he said it makes you really shaky. It really can make you shaky when you're detoxing something as powerful as heavy metals. Excuse me, he's getting his fur all in my face again. And so, so Memes here went into shaking, and it was quite extreme. And I mean, I do shaking every night, guys. I really, really do. I have to shake out, just my interactions with people every day, let alone then if I have, done something toxic. But also that I tune into it with the fluids. So that is part of the fluids aspect for me. And it's much more about sort of shaking out every single body posture that you've taken on. You're just kind of shaking it off. You're just kind of, jolts and jerks and, releasing like this, okay? And I'll do it either, at the beginning and the middle and the end of a process kind of thing, just to start it. Then when I'm wanting to just have a rest for a bit, I might just go into the fluids work and go quiet. And it can be, really subtle shaking. It can just be like a general, because a lot of what we're holding is, oh shit, I've gone over time. I'm gonna actually have to cut out bits with this one to try and get it down to 30 minutes again. But so he has done really, really well. I'm going to carry on with the milk thistle, but I've also then realized I've got to get it out of his system. It's like I'm saying, you've got to attach those particles are positively charged. I hate the way everything's been inverted in this culture. Another thing I want to burn down, but negatively charged, honestly. It's a negative charge, but we call it a positive charge for some stupid reason. And it attaches itself to the clay because the clay is negatively charged, okay? Or positively charged. So, and so it can be any kind of clay. Bentonite clay, even though there is information out there to say that it is toxic. Montmorillonite clay or diatomaceous earth. Those are the ones I've come across. Oh, and activated charcoal, as well as zeolites, okay, which are a spray. But you do need to be careful with clays, okay, because they can constipate you. It's, what clay's like. It's thick, it's heavy. When it gets into water, it expands, okay? And so that's what's happening. It's going into the system, it's going into the digestive system. Water is, coming into it as well. It's expanding, and then it's attracting, and then it will, if you're just detoxing, then you might also be using something like psyllium, and then it's pulling then and attracting all the accumulated debris from the colon, from the gut, and then you can actually eliminate it. Otherwise, you aren't really detoxing. You're just stirring it up, and it's just raging then rampant around the system, okay? So you've got to be using clay, and then ideally on top of that, using some form of digestive stimulant, or you can use, things like, colonics and things like that. I don't personally use them, and I don't personally recommend them, so you can go to somebody else to recommend those. Okay, so getting him on the clay now, just going to do DE, and he definitely doesn't have parasites because he just has such a low. This is the thing with cats. This is the main reason I've realised that they are so addicted. Number one, the food is addictive and it's full of sugars and grains as well as chemicals, and so they are in a dopamine cycle. But number two is because it's such low grade junk food, feeding parasites, and so they can't stop eating. But Memes has never had parasites because he just mainly was milk fed. He wasn't even interested in food. And Mooks now, we are actually curbing the parasites. I can't believe it. She's not even that interested in junk food anymore. She wants natural food. She's not interested in raw. Okay, she just absolutely won't go near it. She sniffs it and no, I'm not interested. But she is choosing healthy food, okay? And so I'm super, super glad about that. Have a good day and a good weekend.